Elara Vance had a crushing conversation with Helena Thorne. When Elara Vance expressed her desire to depart Shadowbrook residence for Cedarwood University, Helena Thorne erupted into a fit of uncontrollable sobbing, accusing Elara Vance of lacking affection. Delia Thorne then entered the room, inquiring about the commotion. Helena Thorne, still distraught, shrieked that Elara Vance no longer loved her and intended to move away. Without any provocation, Delia Thorne pulled out her phone and sent Elara Vance a horrifying message. "You're pathetic," it began. "I despise you. You're worthless, and I'm glad you were previously harmed. No one cares about you, and no one ever will. How dare you upset Helena Thorne? She's been kind to you your entire life, and all she ever wanted was for you to stay. You'll never amount to anything. I know you've been contemplating ending things, so why don't you actually do it? No one would care. Your partner left you last year, and I think that proves my point. I hope you experience more pain, but I should probably stop before you call the authorities on me, like you used to do to Helena Thorne when we were children. There's so much more I could say, but I don't want to be a bully." Reading those words sent Elara Vance into a torrent of tears. Helena Thorne, upon witnessing her daughter's anguish, began to laugh hysterically, praising Delia Thorne's wit. "You're going nowhere," Helena Thorne declared, before turning and walking away. Elara Vance desperately wanted to escape, but felt utterly lost. She tried to compose herself, to formulate a plan, but then Delia Thorne re-entered the room. A smirk played on her lips as she stopped directly in front of Elara Vance, her gaze challenging, daring her to speak. "What's wrong?" Delia Thorne asked, her voice oozing with feigned concern. "Did I wound your feelings?" She didn't wait for an answer. "Oh wait, I forgot. You don't possess any."
"You're just an empty shell who believes everyone owes her something." Elara Vance remained silent, afraid to open her mouth lest she either scream or dissolve into tears again, refusing to grant Delia Thorne the satisfaction. Delia Thorne leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're such a pitiful little crybaby. No wonder nobody wants you around." Then, moving behind Elara Vance before she could react, Delia Thorne flicked the back of her head. Elara Vance stumbled slightly, and Delia Thorne cackled. "Oops," she chirped mockingly. "My apologies, didn't see you standing there." The sting resonated, but Elara Vance didn't turn. She stood rigidly, fists clenched, struggling to maintain her composure. She felt utterly trapped, unable to move. Delia Thorne leaned in again, her breath chilling Elara Vance's ear. "You know, you really ought to do everyone a favor and just vanish. You'd be doing us all a huge service." Elara Vance closed her eyes, wishing the floor would swallow her whole, wishing she was anywhere but Shadowbrook residence. Delia Thorne pulled back, her laughter returning, a harsh, cruel sound. "Yeah, that's what I thought. Go ahead, keep pretending you're brave and tough, but we all know you're just a coward." She spun and walked away, leaving Elara Vance trembling. Her head throbbed where Delia Thorne had struck it, but it was insignificant compared to the crushing weight in her chest. Taking a shaky breath, Elara Vance tried to steady herself. She knew she had to leave, but felt utterly without options. Helena Thorne's words echoed, "You're going nowhere." That night, Elara Vance retreated to her room and locked the door. She knew she couldn't remain in Shadowbrook residence. It felt like being trapped in an inescapable nightmare. She sat on the edge of her bed, gazing at the blank wall, trying to devise a strategy. Walking out the front door was not an option. Helena Thorne and Delia Thorne would stop her. She needed a solid plan. First, she grabbed her phone and opened Delia Thorne's messages. She meticulously screenshotted everything, unsure if she'd ever need them, but wanting proof. It felt surreal, building a case against her own family, but they had left her no other recourse. She saved the screenshots in a hidden folder, then backed them up to her email. Afterward, she sifted through other vile messages Delia Thorne had sent her over the years, saving every insult, every threat. It was a lot. She tried not to dwell on them, knowing it would only provoke more tears, and she needed to stay focused. Next, Elara Vance made a list of essentials: clothes, her laptop, a few books, and the cash she had been diligently saving from her part-time job, roughly $300, a modest sum, but hopefully enough to start anew. She began packing a small bag stealthily, mindful of making any noise. She rolled up some clothing, tucked in her laptop and charger, and buried the cash deep in her backpack. Her heart pounded throughout, as if she were committing a crime, but she reminded herself that this was necessary. She couldn't continue living this pretense. As she zipped up the bag, footsteps approached in the hallway. Elara Vance froze, her heart leaping to her throat. The doorknob rattled, and she realized she'd forgotten to unlock it. "Open the door," Helena Thorne's voice cut through, sharp with annoyance. Elara Vance hesitated, then forced herself to her feet and turned the lock. Helena Thorne pushed the door open, arms crossed, her eyes narrowed in a glare. Her gaze fell upon the bag on Elara Vance's bed, and comprehension dawned on her face. "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded. Elara Vance tried to remain calm, to find a plausible explanation, but panic swelled within her. "I'm just packing some things," she managed, her voice trembling slightly. "For Cedarwood University, I just wanted to be prepared." "Don't you lie to me," Helena Thorne snapped, stepping into the room.
"You think you're leaving after everything I've done for you? You're just going to walk out?" Elara Vance swallowed hard, her mouth dry. "I'm not trying to leave right now," she said, forcing a smile. "I was just getting things together. I'm not going anywhere." Helena Thorne didn't believe her. Elara Vance could see it in her eyes. Helena Thorne took another step, her face mere inches from Elara Vance's. "You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you're going to run off and have this perfect little life. Well, you're not. You're not going anywhere." "I know, Helena Thorne," Elara Vance said, keeping her voice soft. "I know. I'm staying here. I'm sorry." She hated saying it, hated the pretense, but she knew if she didn't, Helena Thorne would make everything worse. Helena Thorne stared at her for a long time, her eyes piercing, as if trying to discern the truth. Elara Vance forced herself to meet her gaze, to maintain a calm expression. Finally, Helena Thorne stepped back, her lips curling into a sneer. "That's right," she said. "You're not going anywhere. You belong here with your family. Don't you forget that." Elara Vance nodded, trying to appear as defeated as she felt. "I won't forget," she whispered. Helena Thorne gave her one last glare before turning and slamming the door behind her. Elara Vance let out a shaky breath, feeling as if she'd just run a marathon. Her hands trembled as she finished packing, stuffing a few more items into the bag. She wouldn't let Helena Thorne win. She wouldn't stay here and let them destroy her. She didn't know how, but she was going to escape Shadowbrook residence. She had to, even if it meant slipping away in the dead of night. She was leaving. She wouldn't let them break her anymore. Elara Vance was determined to escape Shadowbrook residence, whatever it took. Something else to mention, Elara Vance had secretly reached out to Chloe Davis. She confided in Chloe Davis about her family situation, and Chloe Davis and the Davises, who knew Helena Thorne slightly, had offered to take her in if she could make her way to them without disclosing her whereabouts. That was her destination. First update. My hands are shaking, but I'm en route to Hopewell Haven, a domestic violence shelter. I'm terrified. The Davises, who initially offered refuge, told me that Helena Thorne becomes terrifying when angry, and they feared her unpredictable retaliation if she discovered my location. They weren't willing to risk it. I'm incredibly disappointed with them. How could Helena Thorne have found out? They live many miles away. I look utterly disheveled. Everything happened so quickly. The night I left, Helena Thorne saw me exiting the door. She hurled a vase at me and screamed vile threats against my life. I didn't even have time to shower. I look and smell awful. Second update. I'm at Vanguard Medical Center ER receiving my medication, courtesy of Hopewell Haven. I'm apprehensive about being judged for my appearance. I literally rolled out of bed to escape, looking dreadful. But I had to flee. The shelter itself is rather pleasant. It's such a relief not to be constantly yelled at or to fear for my life every night. The only drawback is the 30-day limit before I must find another place. Fortunately, I have a job interview lined up. I'm unsure how to approach it, but I think I'll be honest and explain my situation at the shelter, emphasizing my need for employment. It's at Starlight Cinemas, which sounds wonderful. Chloe Davis and the Davises also reconsidered and said I could stay at Willow Creek Home after the 30 days if I had nowhere else to go. I just need to cover my travel costs. Final update. Wow, it's been nearly 3 years since I posted those desperate pleas for help. For some reason, these old posts resurfaced in my mind after all this time. Rereading them, I want to embrace my past self because I had truly forgotten the depths of my despair. I also want to extend a hug to all of you who offered your support. I wrote down the advice you shared, and I truly put it into practice. So here is the final and happily positive update to this saga. Hopewell Haven, where I stayed, was lovely and quite new. The Haven guides mentioned how cramped the older facility was, so I felt incredibly fortunate to have arrived when I did. After the initial day, my nerves settled, and I could finally breathe. There were about 7 other women, members of the Sanctuary Sisterhood, and each of us had our own room with a decent bathroom. I was the youngest, and the older women offered invaluable life advice, even helping me with my makeup for interviews. We took turns cooking, as per the rules, and developed a wonderful camaraderie. The Haven guides were amazing, also offering counsel and support. I felt incredibly safe there, largely due to the robust security measures. Oh, I almost forgot. A Compassion Circle group visited and gifted us handmade quilts. I still cherish mine. Sometimes I snuggle with it, reflecting on how far I've come. I adore that quilt and handle it with great care when washing. We also had both group and individual therapy, which proved incredibly beneficial. I know not every Hopewell Haven experience is identical, but please, don't hesitate to leave when circumstances turn dire. Abuse within a family absolutely qualifies as domestic violence. I secured a job that offered a better wage than Starlight Cinemas. I told them I didn't plan on returning to school in the immediate future. Yes, it was a fabrication, but working at a movie theater wouldn't cover rent. I decided to seek my own accommodation rather than staying at Willow Creek Home with Chloe Davis's family, needing true stability. If things went awry, I'd have no real support system and would be back at square one. While I had no specific reason to anticipate problems, after escaping such a traumatic situation, nothing felt truly secure. I rented a room at Liberty Loft. My roommate, Arthur Finch, was a truck driver and rarely home. I initially felt a little uneasy living with an older man I barely knew, but my options were limited. He was very kind, and our schedules never aligned, so we often left each other little notes, which I still have. I did return to my studies the following semester, once my medical leave concluded, but not at Fairview College. I craved a fresh start, and my family knew about the old school anyway, so I applied to different institutions. I was accepted into Aurora Institute. I shared my story of resilience and survival in my application essay. Delia Thorne's assertion that I would never amount to anything was wrong, and I believe deep down she knew it. I graduated this year, and I've achieved a level of stability I've never known. Although I'm a few years older than I originally intended to be upon graduation, I've realized such timelines are irrelevant, and the medical leave ultimately proved beneficial. I just got engaged to Caleb Reed, a truly wonderful man with an equally wonderful family. The Reeds consistently reassure me that I am now part of their family, and I've grown incredibly close to my future mother-in-law. A few days ago, I experienced food poisoning for the first time. Caleb Reed left the house at 2 a.m. to get Pedialyte, ensuring I stayed hydrated. When I felt perpetually stuck in the bathroom, he volunteered to make lentil soup for me, without me even having to ask or hint. In contrast, when I was a child and sick with vomiting, Helena Thorne would simply tell me to go back to sleep. It feels incredibly good to be treated with such care, and sometimes I catch myself saying, "You don't have to," when he tries to do something kind for me. Caleb Reed has 6 siblings, and they are like the brothers and sisters I never had. I've learned to value myself and prioritize my own well-being. I wasn't loved unconditionally, so I now do things for myself that I never received. No one made me feel special, so I make sure to do it myself. A therapist recommended I buy myself flowers weekly, and it truly makes a difference. No one cared when I was ill, so I now ensure I rest and relax without disruptions when I'm sick. No one respected my personal time or space, so I have days where I simply don't answer my phone, dedicating that time solely to myself. These small acts of self-care have transformed my life. When I posted that last desperate update, I was weeping, truly believing I would never be okay. I was in a shelter with a mere 30-day window, convinced nothing positive could possibly unfold in such a short span. I was profoundly depressed and hopeless, completely unaware that things could turn in such a profoundly positive direction.